is from Tsukuba University, which is a very important and distinguished university in Japan, and especially in the field of educational studies. And that's why we are honored and pleasure to have this opportunity to invite Professor Aki Yamada to give a speech to everybody here. And I believe that everyone here will learn much from her speech. Now let's welcome Professor Aki Yamada.
大家好. Yeah, that's all. I'm sorry. But thank you so much for inviting me to National Chai University. Oh, okay. This is my third time to coming to Taiwan. My first time coming to Taiwan was I was in middle school because my mother went to research in Taiwan. Japan and Taiwan has a very strong connection. So from my middle school, I always wanted to go to Taiwan. And then in my second time, I came to Chai actually last summer. I met Professor Yang there. We both studied at the same university, same advisor. And today is my third time. And the more I come, I'm very loving every time, so I would be more happy to come another time as well. I think I've seen some faces. Can you raise a hand who came to Japan to my university? I think you were. I remember you were a teacher, right? I remember, and yes. So I come from a university of Tsukuba, Chubo Dashue, if I pronounce it correctly. So I'm three of you. I think you saw my university, right? Especially you.
Yeah.
What did you think about my program? Do you remember?
Not really.
Not really. Okay.
Jenny, I think that we should have some
What was your image
you
of
remember
this?
anything about the campus, Tsukuba, and the program?
I remember that the dean and Professor Yang gave the speech.
Okay.
I only remember that I
The
was
flying.
flying.
So that is a hint. So my university is a very engineering school. We focus on, have you ever heard virtual reality, augmented reality? So it's something you see something real through the virtual lens. So it's a very hot topic now. And I work in a university that's very engineering school, but I'm an education background. So what do I do there? That's kind of the goal message from today's presentation. So I would like to begin. So my presentation topic is about international student mobility in the Japanese graduate schools. This is my research topic that I got the grant from the Minister of Education that I'm doing case studies. First, my university. A case studies of the University of Tsukuba's interdisciplinary and engineering PhD program. So today's a keyword in my presentation is interdisciplinary and knowledge-based society and in engineering, this hybrid field. So sorry the color is a little bit not clear, but if we look at the migration study, I want to ask a question. How many of you in here are non-Taiwanese students? Can you raise your hand? Where are you mostly from?
Indonesia.
You too?
Me?
You're from Indonesia?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
So, Indonesia and Taiwanese. Is there any other students from abroad? Oh.
Yeah, he from Hong Kong.
Hong Kong. And we have one from Greece or slash America. Okay. And Japanese. Okay. So nowadays it's very easy for students to study abroad as before. Migration became not as hard as before. If you look at the studies of migration studies, long time ago, people flew because of economical reason, historical, political, to for a better job and for a better opportunity to live. However, if you look at our contemporary migration studies, we don't need to be that desperate because we can't have a better life to where we are. No, we can easily just study abroad easily. I think Indonesian students too. You came to Taiwan to study because there was a relationship with your school, like a study abroad, or you came here to study 4 years? Or can some of you give me a sample why you came to Taiwan?
Because Taiwan provides us a scholarship.
There's an internal scholarship. Okay. Yeah, same as Japan too. We have a lot of international students because we want international students to study abroad. Thus, we give a scholarship for them as an incentive. So there's those kind of reasons. So this is the type of a new migration studies that there's a lot of educational politics and of course globalization too. That plays a very important key role. So the new migration studies, when we look, is we can phrase is as a talent and labor flows. The labor and the talent are going back and forth very easily. So if you look at this is a quote by Altbach, one of the famous scholar in education. He describes globalization as economic, political, and social forces pushing 21st century higher education toward greater international involvement. And if you look at the round circles, we can see how the globalization is very impacting to higher education. Knowledge is very moving easily because of the globalization flow. And of course, this university ranking, this ranking of everything, this serious competition as a result of globalization drives universities to transform themselves in order to cope with the rise of a knowledge-based society. So, how many of you always look at the ranking system? Have you ever heard about the ranking system? Okay, why is ranking so important? Why do you look at the ranking? Do you have an opinion?
We can compare all.
Compare. Yeah, you can see where you are. You can look at the other schools too. My university, it's actually in engineering, it's number 7 in Japan, or 5 to 7 out of all the nations. University of Tsukuba is a very engineering school. It actually was based on an educational school. Tokyo Institute of Education made the school, but now it's a very engineering school. And we really look carefully at the ranking of the education. And so it's becoming this education is ranking is always the most important thing, where we are. However, I was talking with a professor from Hong Kong. He was explaining that Hong Kong looks more at the outcome, but Japan looks very the process. To get to the outcome, we have to look at the A, B, C, then going to the Z. So it takes really long time. And I've been in my university for 1 year, but we are making the progress really slow. And I think Hong Kong is moving very faster, so which means the ranking is going to go very different. So the approach is very different. I would like to later ask how the Taiwan is the process. Is it more like A, B, C, or looking at the outcome? Professor Yang, do you think Taiwan is more looking at the outcome, or do you think you guys are more going through the slow process?
What do you mean the outcome is the ranking of university?
Or just for a better quality of
You
education?
mean higher education?
Yes, in general.
I think we look for outcome,
Okay,
but we slow pace, not as Hong Kong so
the
fast.
drastic,
Yeah.
okay. So to begin with, everyone have heard globalization, but again, it's very hard to define what is actual a globalization. Do you know who this person is?
Nelson Mandela.
Nelson Mandela. He gave this very important quote, which gives me a principle every time to study, is that education is the most powerful weapon which you can use and to change the world. So this is one of the reasons why I wanted to study abroad, because education is the first step for you to make a change. However, then to my question, I questioned myself, if I I did my undergraduate in Japan, and I thought, I think I'm changing a little bit of Japan. However, I don't really know outside the field, outside of my country, outside of everything. How am I going to share my knowledge, what I learned in Japan? I think I have to study abroad and then maybe come back and to contribute to my society. So I decided to do my master and graduate school in the United States, and then I decided to come back because I wanted to actually contribute my knowledge to Japan, because if I didn't come back to Japan, I'm contributing my knowledge to the United States. So I just thought that's kind of the difference. I believe a lot of scholars understand what that means too. So to begin with, about how higher education prepares their graduates to bring high-level skills and strategies, including team-focused innovation, a comprehensive engineering problem-solving approach. So these are the keys, but my universities, as a case studies, as I would explain, how are we responding to globalization? Especially the Japanese engineering schools are really trying to prepare Japanese engineering kids to work not only in Japan, but to work abroad and to present and show their knowledge. Because we have a lot of Japanese industries, technology industries like Sharp, Hitachi, Toshiba, and Sony. We work with those and Nissan. We work with those companies, and they always want smart Japanese engineering kids not to work only there, but also to send their products and go abroad. So, but it's very hard to make those students because they're very domestic in the previous. So we're really trying to make this globally knowledge. So this is my actual research topic about STEM. I think you have heard. Some people put A. You can put any kind of word, so there's many ways, but I go for the fundamental, like the basic STEM. Science, technology, engineering, and math. So these are the studies by some scholars who's done about STEM. So the growth of the knowledge economy and changing demands for university skills worldwide are particularly apparent in the fields of science, technology, and engineering and math. And STEM fields as a key to fueling innovation, economic development, international competitive in a modern knowledge-based society. So the contemporary Japanese Prime Minister Abe-san, he actually cut a lot of budget for social science and humanities because in order for Japan to compete with especially the top-ranking universities, STEM field is mostly important. How many papers are cited? Engineering is very easy to publish more than humanities or social science because the language, the jargons, the terminology they use, the signs are same. So again, it's a very universal language. However, we social science professor, when we try to explain about our culture, about our history of education, it takes more time to write a paper than engineering scholars. So again, for understanding that, a lot of the money actually from Minister of Education in Japan is very going to the STEM field. So we school have to focus more on the STEM field. That's why I was hired in the STEM school, even I'm not STEM major. So I would explain it. This is one of the most important quote that kind of makes me feel like why STEM and interdisciplinary studies are important. Steve Jobs in the left, he explained that it's in Apple's DNA that technology alone is not enough. That is, technology is married with liberal arts, married with humanities, that yields us the result that makes our heart sing. So when we think about Apple, we think iPad, Studio, iPhone, a lot of new technologies. However, if you look at the people who's working there, they're not all engineers. There's a lot of like anthropologists, history people who studies about the technologies, the history of how the phone has been developed, how people perceive. So not only technology, it's very important for different field people to collaborate. So the collaboration is very important. How to explain your field of studies to different people and how to connect there. If you only talk with your same major people, that's important, but when everyone is not the same field. So again, he's explaining why we need to collaborate with different people. So this kind of connects to my studies. And so what is important for STEM people to study, especially in Japanese context? What's missing? Engineering kids, most of the Japanese engineering kids already knew they were going to be in engineering from middle school, high school. They didn't really study that much history. They did study a little bit basic, but their curriculum was very focused on engineering curriculum. So what's missing? In the studies of higher education, it's been explained that cultural competency is missing, is lacking for some of the engineering students. And especially Japanese students, they don't really know the multicultural understanding because it's supposed to be a very homogeneous. We don't have that much international students as compared to Hong Kong or Singapore. We don't have that much Japanese scholars who lived abroad working in Japan. A lot of still the faculty's background is they did their PhD in Japan. So it's very like a different closed society. So they're very lacking at these skills. So the point about how to prepare these students for global preparedness is that extend the concept of global or intercultural competency to include a readiness to engage and effectively operate in ambiguous situations and in different cultural contexts to address engineering problems. And have you ever heard Michael Sandel? He's a Harvard philosophy professor. I use his video in my teaching class because it's a very general education class. The freshmen Harvard students mandatory have to take his philosophy class. And he talks about a very basic thing. What do you mean by killing people? In this situation, is it killing? And all these engineering, humanities, medical school, human biology students have to discuss in a very philosophical, Socrates way. And the point is that he wants these 365 different mention students to understand about one topic, how to be persuasive, how to be logical, how to compete with other students and make a strong statement. This kind of education class is very important. However, in Japanese education, I would like to ask about Taiwan and Hong Kong case too. There isn't that much this very style of talking. It's very still professor talks and the students learn, especially undergraduate. Graduate students is becoming a seminar style, so more students can actually engage and talk. However, in America, from an undergraduate level freshman who's 18 years old have to do this kind of style. And actually they're becoming very successful. I studied the outcome of the students who actually studied in this class. They're very approaching and they're very in a very high status job. And some of the Apple's manager, I think he took this class and said it was the most important class in the major studies because he never had the opportunities to actually have a talk about in a philosophical way. So I believe here most of the students are education majors, right? Is there any students who's engineering background? Are you engineering? No, okay. So sorry, this is going to be a very engineering point of view, but the objective and challenge for engineering students in Japan is to provide graduates with intercultural development and superb technical capabilities, as well as to educate their students to work as part of the team. So they're very good at making stuff, but they're very not good at expressing and explaining it publicly. They know it is good, but they just can't explain it well because I think it's good. I was like, okay, how are you going to contribute to this product to society? Okay, it's going to be very engineering. Is that okay? No, you have to make it understandable for non-engineering people to understand. So those are the challenges that the Japanese engineering students need to do. And also to work as a team, especially for non-Japanese students together with us international students. So we're really trying to prepare students to solve important engineering problems that stretch far beyond not only in Japan, but domestically and internationally, and also technologically and culturally and sociopolitically. So we're trying to, this is one of the key points about my research, is that we're trying to prepare students with soft skills and also a little bit liberal arts and interdisciplinary studies, because these are very important keys. Because this will enable students to be effective participants in a cross-cultural research collaboration to become a global citizenship. To become a global 21st century human capital, you have to understand not only your field, but also liberal arts and interdisciplinary studies. So I'm going to skip here. I'm going to talk now about the Japanese problem. So the structural transformation of Japanese higher education, that it's been combined with the impact of globalization and the development of the global knowledge-based society. These competitive forces have resulted in the global competition that is currently reshaping higher education. Because of the globalization, Japanese Ministry of Education is going through a very drastic difference. And so, what is missing? What is the critical thing? Linguistic and communication skills. I'm very disappointed, but the Japanese students' TOEFL score is very low. Even we're in the developed country, our ranking is very low. When I took the TOEFL test, I'm very embarrassed to say, but I was not very high compared to Hong Kong or Singaporean students. However, my professor in Japan was like, this is very high. And I was like, this is very not high. But from a Japanese standard, it is. So I'm like, okay. So there are some problems about the TOEFL. Why the TOEFL score so slow? Why is the Japanese English education not that good? So there's been a problem. And also, some of the other important missing thing is that understanding of other cultures and a sense of identity is Japanese. Japanese kids don't really have a strong identity. To be honest, when I talk with a Japanese student, they're very in this utopian harmony mentality. They don't really know about the outside of Japan, and they don't really have the strong feeling of, why do I have to study abroad? Japan is a very safe country. The higher education is very secure. Most of my friends who went to the school can work at the top, work. Why do I have to go abroad? Why do I need to speak English, or why do I have to speak Chinese now? Because if I want to work in Japan, just this track of going to this high school, this university, and then it's fine, right? Not anymore, students. So this is one of the cases. Because when I was studying in the United States, it was very hard for me to find the Japanese college kids. However, when it comes to Chinese, Taiwanese, Hong Kong students, I met many. So I was questioning why Japanese students are not studying abroad. It's been a very critical issue too. So the Japanese higher education university is now finally, they're in a secure. They're very worried about it, so they're responding to globalization. So now they're thinking that we are obliged to deal with the upgrading excellence in research, teaching, learning, and advertising at a domestic international level. So Japanese universities need to offer education which can deal with globalization knowledge-based society. So the Ministry of Education is giving a lot of funding for international students to come to Japan because they know that Japanese students are actually not that much going abroad. Then how are we going to make a globalization atmosphere? Okay, we're going to give a good scholarship for them, international students, to come to Japan and work. And actually, we want them to work for a Japanese company later. Not only to study and get a degree, we actually want them to stay in Japan, and so there will be more strong connection with international students and Japanese students. And these international students who studied in Japan know the Japanese culture. It's quite different from the West, so it's very important. There's been a case that a lot of international people who comes to Japan, who never studied about Japan, but who works in Japan, they have a lot of struggle with language and the cultural context. However, for international students who studied in Japan, undergrad or graduate, and who work, have the cultural competency, understand about the culture. And thus we're trying to hire a lot of international students to come to Japan. So this is my program. Now I'm going to the micro aspect. Some of the professors has been to my school, but it's a very computer science information studies program. Empowering people. It's a very catchy word, but finally, after being 1 year, I finally am coming to realize what it means, because it's very like a techie word. So the University of Tsukuba, our program, Empowerment and Informatics program, is supported by the Minister of Education and Culture. We call it MEXT. And this has been a selecting leading graduate program. What is a leading graduate program? It's an experiment program that the Minister of Education funded 7 years to. There's 21 leading graduate schools in Japan and 21 universities. For information studies, there's 4 programs. For social science, there's 3 programs. So in these different kind of fields, 21 universities got a big money from the Minister of Education, because we need to really produce an outcome of how these Japanese students, international students who studied in this leading graduate program are going to be a pioneer in the Japanese education. So leading means like the pioneer, very new people. So it was selected as a member of the top global universities program, and which aims to develop the internationalization of Japanese universities through English program and extensive recruitment of support for international students and faculty. So this is kind of the different field that's in my program. Again, I talked about the interdisciplinary, but mostly it's a robotics. However, if you look from the top from the orange, it says wearable, robotics, cybernetics, medicine, rehabilitation, nursing, neuroscience, cognitive science, psychology, business, design, media art, human informatics, virtual reality. So this side is more the engineering and also natural science, neuroscience, psychology, and then it goes a little bit to the social science side, business, psychology, and we have sociology now. So it's a loop. So we believe that everything is actually connected. Like if you make a line, everything is connected to some extent. So this is and we have different faculties who are from a different field to work with the students together. So this is a 5-year funded program for students. We have a 7-year, but it's a 5-year secure program. It's quite intense. It's very demanding. For students who want to study, it's 5-year funded, but it's quite challenging, I would say, from the beginning. So, responding to the globalization, how to produce 21st century knowledge. This is what we proposed. So the first year students, even the first year graduate student, which is a master M1, has to study a lot of interdisciplinary coursework. Right now I'm teaching ethnography and a debating class to engineering kids. And I've been seeing the challenge that international students in my class, in the debating team, they can really talk philosophically. And I asked why, and they said from elementary in Italy and Portugal, we always had this group discussion, so they know how to share, how to be persuasive and logical. However, the Japanese students are struggling because they do have a good data, but they just can't express it. They just can't make it in a logical order. Language too, they very suffer how to speak it in English. So it's been a very challenge, but then after this class, they're really trying, they mentioned to me that it was a very good experience, especially for studying together with non-Japanese students from a different educational background. Their approach is different, so they're getting a lot of stimulation. So as I said, in the first year, they study different field, not your field, outside field. And then next, the debating class, and then next is research design practicum. So actually, we want our students not to become a scholar. We want our students to become global leaders and actually work in a company, corporate, and make products. Because a lot of the engineering robotics students in our program are very good technical, and they're very good at making, some students already took a patent, even they're a graduate student. So a lot of the company recruiters want them, but also we want them not only to work at a company, but also be strong and to be a global leadership. So the curriculum is very designed to actually how to make stuff and work in a company. Because like for instance, this global collaboratory practicum, students are going to work with a company together and bring their proposal, and then if it's a good idea, maybe the company might give a fund to make a product. So one of the students are now working with Nissan, the car industry, and he's working in the automobile car, and he's studying together with the Nissan people together. So it's a very good experience. And then so it's a very, if you miss one class, you can't graduate. So it's very intensive and demanding, but it's a full funded, and it's giving a quite good amount of money for our students compared to other graduate students, because leading is a little bit special, but that happens. And next. So what we aim for the graduate students to gain. So interdisciplinary, and the presentation skill. How the ability to communicate and appeal the essence of research achievements. How do you talk? How do you present your work? How do you advertise your work? And then the front line, the ability to solve real-world problems in industrial, governmental, and academic spheres. So these are the 3 core keywords that we really want our students to get out. So the program prepares graduate students with highly developed skills and knowledge that can be transferred directly from the university to the workplace and to society at large. So for instance, maybe you might not be familiar, but there's some conference called SIGGRAPH. It's a computer design conference. It's a ACM American conference, but some of the Japanese students who are in our program were selected to go to this top conference in this field. It's the engineering field. but they're also going to bring their product and they're trying to get a job there. So they're very trying to prepare how to present their made in Japan product to these American corporate who would understand their field. And these are some of the I apologize, it's kind of small, but these are all the fields that we study in this program, but then we want students to go all over in a different field. So again, it's very spreading out. But again, I can't say the outcome yet because our program right now is in the third year, and we don't have alumni yet. We don't have the graduates yet. We have the current students are fifth year who got one job at NEC, Nihon Electronic Company, and the other students who got a job at Matsuda, the car industry. So those are the two who is going to be alumni. And this is some of the pictures of how we want our students to get outcome. So this is just a curriculum I would like to explain a little bit that we have for the interdisciplinary coursework. We have this thing called lab rotation. So when the graduate students come to our program, there's 26 different labs in engineering. But some of the students whose background is not in medical science have to go to engineering, mechanical engineering lab and look at the field. And they don't really know because they come from a different field, but to give the opportunity to look at a different lab, how it works, how it functions, what kind of teamwork they're doing in this field, it's very important to go there. And some of the engineering kids are actually going to the Tsukuba University Hospital and actually seeing the surgeon doing a surgery. I've been to the surgery lab too. It took me 6 hours standing and looking at cutting people. Yeah, you're not a doctor, but it's a great experience to see that. And some of the students are actually trying to make a medical device to go inside and cut people to help the doctors. So this is kind of the perks, the benefit to go to the program because you get to see a different field person, research. And then we fund the students to make a project, to make a stuff. Have you ever heard of an event called Ars Electronica? It's one of the creative media device, one of the most top conference in Austria, Linz. And all the time our students are going there to present their work. And so these are the two, I'm sorry it's kind of dark, but some of the students made these interesting device that you can feel like the spider is crawling. It's a very haptic thing, but how do you feel when a spider is walking around you? The spider's not walking, it's just a device, but they make those stuff. And there's more other cool stuff as well. It's quite fascinating to see how these graduate students are making something very important because I can't really teach the engineering field, but I can tell from the consumer point of view from a social scientist, how do you really, what is the significance of these stuff? And these are other things we want the students to study, that research design practicum, how to write a proposal to get a money, how to write a proposal not only to the academic field, but to a corporate who's going to fund you. It's a strategy of writing. And we have Japanese students and international students to work in a Japanese company. I think especially the international students here, when you study abroad here, have you ever thought about doing an intern in Taiwan? No, right? It's not that easy, right? Again, studying abroad and actually doing an intern in a company in the local country is kind of a different. So that was also the challenge. A lot of the international students who came to Japan wanted to work for a Japanese company, but because they don't speak the language and the Japanese company is not prepared with international students, that was hard. So we were trying to find Japanese companies who are willing for international students to work. And sometimes faculty goes there and connect them to be a bridge. So I have to take care of my students a lot. I'm almost like a mother to them because international students, a lot of the Tsukuba University faculty, older professors, are not that much global mind. They know they need to do it, but when they come to the actual teaching, actual taking care of the students, more student affair thing, I have to do it. And because I'm close with their age and I also studied abroad, so I understand the challenge. So again, that's kind of the important thing about being in the leading graduate program, is that there's like a lot of young scholars who will actually take care of the students 365 days. I always have to talk with them. I remember Professor Young is also taking care of the students very well too, so it's very important to have that kind of close professor, right? So that you feel very connected, not only the teacher, but personally.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's very important. So I'm also that kind of role in my university too. So this is just my little, I wrote it in, I can't pronounce it, I practiced it. Genius. Oh no, I don't want to do it. 谢谢. Yes. I'm sorry I talked very fast, but this is kind of the program I wanted to talk about, and this is the direction of a Japanese higher education. So I hope you got the idea of how the Japanese higher education is now going to what's their goal, which is to produce global knowledge. Thank you so much. If you have questions, let me know. Anything is fine. Please don't hesitate. Yes.
Okay. I remember you said about how the Japanese ability in English, and then I do understand when I was in Japan, and I feel difficult to find a place when I ask Japanese, the local people, to ask direction, and then they just afraid of me, and then I do understand it, and then I think why, like you say before, Japanese provide many scholarships for international students who will come to Japan, and then they expect that they will stay in Japan, and then because and then also you say you feel difficult to find the Japanese people in United States or yes. I think maybe it's because like if I want to share about Indonesian students, we want to study abroad. One of the reasons is because there's so many opportunities to get the scholarship, and even it's from our country or the other country that like us now we got scholarship from NCYU. Yeah, so it encourages us to learn English. Yes. So how about the Japanese students? Any scholarship that government provide for Japanese students, so the Japanese students can have the desire to learn English to study abroad. Yes. So how about in Japan?
So I would like to ask the Indonesian case. One of the problem in Japanese higher education, why Japanese students don't study abroad, is because our fiscal year starts from April. I think in Taiwan it's September, right? Same as the United States. Hong Kong too?
Same. 2 semesters.
2 semesters.
September to December. Second semester, January to May.
So that case, it's very easy for them to study abroad. However, Japan, they can't really change it. There's been some opinions that we should change it so that Japanese students can study abroad. Foreign students can come to Japan to begin the same year, but that's one of the big problems. So because of that, they think, okay, we can't go. Another big problem is the job hunting. It starts secure in this term. For instance, if you want to graduate, are you an undergraduate or a graduate? Graduate student, okay. So if you were an undergrad in Japan, everyone starts job hunting from the third year to start in the third year. And then it takes half a year, 7 months, because it's very complicated. And then they finally get the job, and then when they graduate in March, when they're fourth year, immediately from April 1st, they have to start the job. So it's a very strict term, which makes it hard for Japanese students to give the opportunity to think about, can I study abroad? In undergrad, if they think for 1 year, if they want to study abroad, they're going to lose 1 year again, which is going to make it hard for them to get a job, because the corporate in Japan doesn't really value still about, oh, you studied 1 year in abroad, but you lost 1 year. They want younger the better, so that they can educate them from the age of 22. So again, this culture is very strict and been criticized from abroad, that these students who studied abroad have a lot of knowledge that the local Japanese don't. Why can't you hybrid and connect it? But they don't have that mentality yet. But now they're getting very worried because look at the other East Asian countries. They're growing and they have so much competency that Japanese students don't. That's one of the case. And I'm sorry when you came to Japan, you still had a hard time speaking. Was that in Tokyo or a big city or?
Osaka.
Osaka. Oh, it's the second big city, and I apologize. Even Osaka. I'm sorry, but thank you for coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the problems I understand. And also, they have this, we call this island mentality, that Japan is in the island, and we have a lot of globalization. We watch TV, we watch a lot of American Hollywood or Asian comics or other things, but they still think that's different. We can have a good life in Japan. They really think Japan is the number one, and they don't have this like hungry, motivated spirit as much as the other students. So that's another case too. And we have a lot of international students who come to Japan. Can you guess what's the main purpose that they want to come to Japan, especially from Asia? Or probably a lot from North America too. They really come from pop culture. They have this anime culture. So a lot of my engineering students from abroad, Slovenia, Netherlands, and Colombia, and Australia, of course they watch Japanese anime. So they have this idea if Japan is this kind of thing, which is kind of different because I don't think it's that pop culture, anime culture. But again, it's very important how Japan is looked from abroad. So again, our faculties have to actually look the pop culture, how Japan is perceived from abroad. So that is a big market. Yeah.
Of course.
I believe a lot of students have watched Japanese anime here. Can you raise a hand? Only one? Come on, right?
Oh, Doraemon, Japanese animation.
Oh, someone said Doraemon.
Yeah, Doraemon. Yeah.
That's a very interesting. Our school is a robotics, so we actually make similar stuff to Doraemon. Not like something comes out from the pocket, but I think in Indonesia too. But when we think about robots, we always think like this a tomboy, Doraemon from a pop culture, a hero. Whereas in America, robotics is very military based. The artificial intelligence is something working with the government about the war. It's not a pop culture. So Japanese robotics is very like contributing to the society to help the older people, how to open the door, how to make we don't have a lot of babies now, so how these robots are going to take care of the kids. Whereas America's more like war, how these robots are going to the war and get the bomb. And so the goal is very different. So a lot of students who doesn't want to work in the war field actually come and study about the harmony of the robotics. So he comes, this is my husband, Alex. He comes from an engineering background. He was studying in the United States, and he's been seeing my graduate program. And do you have some opinions about our program? How it's unique from American engineering school?
I mean, they have it's a new program, and so they don't have a lot of the problems that well-established programs might have. Like for example, I can give you the example of CCL at MIT. You know that is the computer science and artificial intelligence library at MIT. They're always running out of space. For example, I mean I guess from a facilities perspective, I mean, they are very well equipped. They have enough space, and they have ample funding, quite a lot of funding, and so it gives students a degree of freedom that otherwise it would be a little bit more difficult for them to have in the confines of a normal research program. Because the way that the research gets done in engineering graduate programs in America is that professors apply for grants either from the government or from corporations, and their students have to work on research that's related to those grants. Whereas here, at the Scuba program, the students are able to propose their own research topics, and there are research funds given to them for that purpose. In other words, their research funds are not limited to a specific topic. No company is paying for it, so there's a lot more freedom all we have to do is, the students have to do a little bit of homework and write a proposal and ask for, whatever money they need, and then it gets given to them. So it's, I would say that the practical focus is a little bit different, and the students' freedom to kind of research the things that they want to is a little bit different than top programs in the United States.
Everyone thinks, especially for engineering, why they think America is the #1 place to do research, but which is true. There are a lot of conference, the journal, and everything is all in the States. But actually, if you look carefully, all of them are not American. They're all like international students who are working, doing research. So America takes a lot of benefit by recruiting a lot of international students to work there. So we're trying to make Japan as that similar too, that even Japan is not like the United States, but we have this opportunity, we have this money, we have this good background, so please come. So it's always a challenge, I think, for East Asian universities how to recruit and make students not always think America or the West is #1. East can provide this great opportunities. This is the goal of my university, and I kind of talked too long.
I have a question, and I have a little bit information because your presentation, I learned much for your presentation because it's related to our study here. So just for our information here, that there's a kind of two pillars of internationalization, and the first is at home, and the second is cross border.
Yes.
And Japanese has a at home internationalization, right? And then my question is, do Japanese government has a special program to retain the talented international student to stay in Japanese? Because like in United States, I ever read an article. It's about a new US program to retain the talented international student by give them a green card.
That's the incentive, yeah.
So my question is, do Japanese government has special program like USA to retain the talented international student? Thank you.
It's a very hard question because the immigration process, green card is it's a license that you can work legally in the country, right? Do you know if Japan, especially he is a foreigner who works in Japan, you must have gone through that process, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Is there such a green card similar thing in Japan?
I mean, there is the concept of permanent residency in Japan, and that can be acquired in a variety of different ways. But as far as skilled foreign labor is concerned, that would be. I am an example of that. It's actually not as hard as it is in the United States. I mean, you have to fulfill some basic requirements, and you have to have a company that will sponsor you, but it's not nearly as expensive or time-consuming as it is in the United States. Like on average, I would say that you submit an application and it takes 2 months and it's approved generally.
Yeah. So, not as hard as America.
All right.
Green card, especially for engineering students, they have a higher chance to get the green card than the social science and humanities because their knowledge, they're going to contribute to the society. And especially like American institutions like NASA and other companies, you have to be an American citizen or green card, otherwise you can't work because they're afraid of the information is going to be abroad. So I don't like that green card, like people working so desperate, and I don't think America's always the #1. Only keep this in here, but
She have a question.
yes.
Do you think it's really hard to change the student until they are in university? Because as I know, the education system is like Taiwan is
Similar.
It's similar, right? But I mean, is a university student? It's easy to change students until they are university, or you think the educational system have to change since they are small? Do you know?
I understand.
Yeah. Because if they don't prepare until they are university, and graduate. They cannot understand and join into the class easily.
Yes. So there's been a debate that some of the scholars in Japan in higher education are trying to change the entrance exam system. I think in Taiwan similar, but Japan is a memorization. It's not about creativity. So how does make students be critical and write creative? Then memorizing a perfect history of 1970s since this person happened, da 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 da. Perfect, but when it comes to, okay, you wrote this history answer. Can you be creative and explain it in a paper? That's one of the critical things that Japanese students are having a trouble. So some of the Minister of Education are trying to change it from elementary school to bring this like critical thinking or this creativity thinking. So I think it's very hard to just change it in universities. They have to try from more the early, young, compulsory education so that they can prepare. And so it's been a challenge. I think in Taiwan, similar in Hong Kong. I don't know about Hong Kong, but Taiwan it's a standard education. When you get into university, there's a national test, right? And the score. How?
It's very complicated.
Can I have a question to you?
Yes.
Yeah, well, because it's changed. The system has been
Yeah,
changed.
if you
Oh,
want
it-
to say something.
Oh, it's changed.
Yeah.
Recently?
Yeah, well, just several years ago.
Several years.
Yeah, multiple entrance system. So not only by exam, also by application, also by
Yeah, examination or
By
interview or
interview,
document,
document,
yeah.
something like that.
so it's not the only one channel to enter university. There are several different channels. Yeah, for making more equal opportunity for different talented students. That's the goal of that policy. Eventually, it's not going to that way.